The alarm screamed across the bridge of the Zarathi Imperial warship Divine Supremacy. Admiral Kethavar's 4 eyes focused on the display showing their border sensors. Something had crossed into Imperial space without permission. This had not happened in over 200 years. "Report," Kethavar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. "Admiral, we have detected one vessel of unknown design. It passed through our barrier shields without triggering any defensive protocols," reported his tactical officer Zentai. The young officer's voice trembled slightly. "The ship appears to be primitive." Kethavar moved to the main viewing screen. The vessel looked nothing like the sleek, crystalline ships of the Empire or any known species. It was bulky and gray, made of what appeared to be simple metal. Crude exhaust flames pushed it forward through space. The ship looked like something a child might build from scrap metal. "How large is it?" Kethavar asked. 2 kilometers long, Admiral. Mass readings suggest heavy construction." "Very heavy," Kethavar laughed. 2 kilometers was barely larger than an Imperial escort ship. "Send the standard warning. Tell them to identify themselves and prepare for inspection." The communications officer worked at his station. "Message sent, Admiral. We are receiving a response." What came through the speakers made everyone on the bridge freeze. The voice was calm, speaking in perfect High Imperial. Then it switched to Kelrani trade language, then to ancient Vorthak, then to dozens of other languages. Each one was spoken with perfect pronunciation and cultural understanding. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable. We come in peace and request safe passage through your territory. We wish to establish diplomatic contact with your leadership." Admiral Kethavar stared at the screen. No primitive species should know so many languages. No species should speak High Imperial with such perfect accent except those born to it. "Captain Chen," Kethavar responded, "you have entered Imperial space without authorization. You will halt your vessel and submit to inspection." "I'm afraid we cannot do that, Admiral. We have a schedule to keep. However, we are happy to discuss our peaceful intentions while we continue our journey." The human ship kept moving forward at a steady pace. It showed no signs of slowing or changing course. Kethavar felt his anger rising. How dare these primitives ignore Imperial commands? "Captain Chen, you will stop your vessel immediately or face the consequences." "Admiral, we detect 36 Imperial warships surrounding our position. We also note your weapons are charging. Please understand that any hostile action will be considered an act of war against the human race." The tactical display showed the human ship continuing its straight path through Imperial space. It made no attempt to dodge or take evasive action. It simply kept moving forward as if the Imperial fleet did not exist. "How is this possible?" Kethavar muttered to himself. "Scan their ship. Full spectrum analysis." The science officer worked quickly. "Admiral, the readings are strange. The hull appears to be made of refined iron and other basic metals. Their propulsion system uses chemical combustion. Their power source seems to be nuclear fusion. All of this technology is thousands of years old by our standards. Then how did they penetrate our barrier shields?" "Unknown, Admiral. The shields should have stopped anything using such primitive technology. Yet our sensors show they passed through without any disruption to the barrier field." Kethavar studied the human vessel again. It looked so simple, so crude, yet it had done something impossible. "What about weapons?" "We detect multiple projectile launchers along the hull. They appear to fire solid metal slugs using chemical propulsion. Very primitive, Admiral. Our shields should easily stop such weapons." Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral Kethavar, we have no desire for conflict. We simply wish to continue our mission of peaceful exploration. Your fleet is welcome to escort us if it makes you feel more secure." The casual tone in the human's voice bothered Kethavar. She spoke as if she were offering him a favor, not responding to Imperial demands. No one spoke to Imperial officers this way. "Science officer, how did they know my name? We have not identified ourselves." "Unknown, Admiral. They should not have access to Imperial personnel records." Kethavar made his decision. These humans needed to learn respect for Imperial authority. "All ships, maintain formation around the human vessel. Continue monitoring. Do not allow them to change course or increase speed. Hours passed as the strange procession moved through Imperial space. The human ship maintained its steady pace while 36 Imperial warships surrounded it. Reports came in from across the fleet. Every sensor scan showed the same results. The human ship was primitive by every measure, yet it had achieved something that should have been impossible. As they traveled deeper into Imperial territory, Admiral HFY found himself staring at the human vessel. Something about it bothered him. The ship looked crude, but there was something else. It looked purposeful. Every part of it seemed designed for a specific function. There was no decoration, no art, no beauty, just pure function. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we are receiving a message from Imperial Command. Emperor Valthek himself wishes to be informed of any developments with the human vessel." HFY felt a chill. If the Emperor was personally interested, this situation was more serious than he had thought. "Send a full report. Include all sensor data and communications." The human ship continued its journey through Imperial space, followed by the most powerful fleet the border worlds had ever seen. Yet somehow Admiral HFY felt like they were not escorting a prisoner. Instead, he felt like they were following something far more dangerous than they understood. Emperor Valthek sat on his crystal throne, studying the reports from Admiral HFY. The golden halls of the Imperial Palace echoed with his frustrated growls. A primitive species had entered his territory and ignored his fleet's commands. This could not stand. "Summon War Prince Zephon," the Emperor commanded. Within hours, the Empire's greatest military commander stood before the throne. Zephon had conquered 17 star systems and never lost a single battle. His reputation struck fear into enemies across the galaxy. "My Emperor, how may I serve?" Zephon asked, bowing his massive frame. "These humans think they can ignore Imperial authority. Take your battle group and intercept them. Disable their ship and bring them here. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the Empire." War Prince Zephon smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "It will be my pleasure, my Emperor. How much force am I authorized to use? Whatever is necessary. But I want them alive to answer for their disrespect." 3 days later, Zephon's battle group dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of the human ship. 12 Imperial warships, including his flagship Glory of Valthek, formed a wall across the human vessel's path. Each ship was 3 times larger than the human craft and armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. "Human vessel, this is War Prince Zephon of the Imperial Navy. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded immediately." Captain Chen's calm voice responded, "War Prince, we have no hostile intentions. Please allow us to continue our peaceful mission. Your peaceful mission ends now. Cut your engines or we will cut them for you." The human ship continued forward without slowing. It showed no fear of the massive Imperial warships blocking its path. Zephon felt his anger rise. These primitives dared to ignore him? Fire warning shots across their bow. Bright blue plasma beams lit up space in front of the human ship. The energy blasts could have destroyed a small moon. The human vessel continued forward, passing through the dissipating plasma clouds without changing course. "Human ship, that was your final warning. Stop now, or face the consequences. War Prince, any attack on our vessel will be considered an act of war. We do not wish to fight, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Zephon laughed. The primitive ship threatened him. "All ships target their engines, minimum power. We want them disabled, not destroyed." The Imperial fleet opened fire. Dozens of plasma beams struck the human ship's rear section. The energy, that hit should have melted through any known armor and disabled their propulsion system. Instead, the human ship's hull glowed red-hot where the beam struck, but remained intact. Worse, the ship began to turn towards Zephon's flagship. "Impossible," Zephon muttered. "How are they still moving?" "War Prince, their hull is absorbing our plasma fire. Our weapons are having minimal effect," reported his weapons officer. "Increase power. Full combat strength." The Imperial ships fired again with enough energy to crack a planet's crust. The human vessel's armor glowed white-hot, but held together. Pieces of metal boiled away from the hull, but the ship kept coming. Then the human ship fired back. What emerged from the human weapons looked pathetic compared to Imperial plasma beams. Simple metal projectiles, no bigger than a person's fist fired by chemical explosions. They traveled much slower than energy weapons and gave off no impressive light show. The first projectile struck Zephan's flagship dead center. The ship's quantum shields, designed to stop plasma fire and antimatter warheads, offered no resistance. The metal slug punched through the shield as if it did not exist. The projectile tore through 12 decks of the Glory of Valthek before exploding deep inside the ship. Emergency alarms screamed across the bridge as damage reports flooded in. Shields are down. Hull breach on level 6 through 18. Engineering reports massive damage to the main reactor. Zephan stared in shock as more human projectiles slammed into his fleet. Each one penetrated their shields like they were made of air. His ships, the pride of the Imperial Navy, were being torn apart by primitive metal bullets. "How is this possible?" Zephan demanded. "Our shields should stop anything." His science officer worked frantically at his station. "War prints. Their projectiles are moving at incredible speed. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and high-speed particles. These solid projectiles are traveling slower, but with enormous mass. The shields cannot grip them properly." Another human projectile struck the flagship, causing the bridge lights to flicker. Zephan felt fear for the first time in his career. His advanced weapons could not penetrate primitive armor, while primitive weapons cut through his defenses like they were nothing. All ships, evasive maneuvers, maximum acceleration. The Imperial fleet scattered, their graceful ships dancing through space to avoid the human projectiles. But the human ship did not pursue. It simply resumed its original course and speed, continuing its journey through Imperial space. Zephan's flagship limped alongside the other damaged vessels. 3 of his ships were barely operational. His pride, his reputation, his faith in Imperial superiority, all damaged by a single primitive vessel. "War prints, should we pursue?" asked his tactical officer. Zephan stared at the human ship moving steadily away from them. Its hull still glowed from plasma hits, but it showed no signs of serious damage. Meanwhile, his own fleet was crippled. "No," he said quietly. "Send a full report to Emperor Valthek. Include everything. Weapon effectiveness, damage reports, tactical analysis, everything." As the human ship disappeared into the distance, Zephan tried to understand what had happened. The Empire's most advanced technology had been defeated by simple metal and chemical explosions. It made no sense according to everything he knew about warfare. But the burning holes in his flagship proved that sometimes simple solutions worked better than advanced ones. The humans had not tried to outfight Imperial technology. They had simply ignored it and used something completely different. For the first time in his life, War Prince Zephan wondered if the Empire was truly as superior as they had always believed. The Imperial Science Academy had never seen such chaos. Scientists, engineers, and military analysts worked around the clock trying to understand the impossible. How had primitive human technology defeated the Empire's most advanced warships? Dr. Vexahara, the Empire's leading weapons specialist, stood before a massive holographic display showing the battle between War Prince Zephan's fleet and the human ship. She had watched the recording hundreds of times, but still could not believe what she saw. "Run the shield analysis again," she commanded her assistant. The hologram showed Imperial plasma beams striking the human vessel. The primitive metal hull absorbed energy that should have vaporized it completely. Meanwhile, simple human projectiles passed through Imperial quantum shields without any resistance. "Doctor, the energy calculations don't make sense," her assistant reported. The human hull absorbed plasma fire equivalent to a solar flare. No known material should survive that much energy. Vexahara studied the data again. The humans had not used advanced materials or exotic physics. Their ship was made of simple iron, carbon, and other basic elements. Yet somehow this crude armor worked better than Imperial crystalline hulls. "What about their weapons?" she asked. Even more puzzling. "They fire solid projectiles using chemical explosions. The technology is thousands of years old, but the projectiles penetrate our shields completely. Across the laboratory, other scientists worked on different aspects of the human mystery. The propulsion team could not understand how chemical rockets matched the speed of Imperial gravity drives. The computer specialists were baffled by human communication systems that seemed primitive, yet somehow knew 40 different galactic languages. Admiral Thexmore entered the laboratory with a group of military officers. His usually calm demeanor showed cracks of frustration and worry. Dr. Vex Hera, the Emperor demands answers. How did primitives defeat our best warships? Vex Hera turned from her display. Admiral, I'm afraid the humans are not as primitive as we assumed. Their technology follows completely different principles than ours. Explain. Our weapons and defenses are designed for elegance and efficiency. We perfected energy manipulation, gravity control, and quantum physics. We built the most advanced technology possible, and the humans did something different. They made everything stronger, heavier, and more redundant. Their ship doesn't avoid damage. It absorbs damage and keeps fighting. Their weapons don't use advanced physics. They just hit harder than anything we expected. Admiral Thexmore frowned. Are you saying their primitive approach is better than our advanced technology? I'm saying their approach is designed for different goals. We built our ships to be fast, elegant, and efficient. They built theirs to survive and fight no matter what happens. A new voice interrupted the conversation. Doctor, we have received intelligence reports about human space. Commander Kelvas, head of Imperial Intelligence, entered carrying data tablets. His expression was grim. What did you discover? Admiral Thexmore asked. Disturbing information? About human society and military doctrine. The humans are not a peaceful exploration species as they claim. Kelvas activated a holographic display showing star charts of human territory. Human space contains over 200 star systems. Their population exceeds 800 billion individuals. They have been expanding steadily for 3 centuries. That's a respectable size, Admiral Thexmore said, but nothing compared to the Empire. Admiral, that's not the concerning part. Our agents discovered human military records. This species has been at war for their entire recorded history. The hologram changed to show human historical data. Images of massive battles, destroyed cities, and weapons of incredible destructive power filled the display. They fought 3 global wars on their home planet before achieving spaceflight. Each war used more destructive weapons than the last. By the end, they possessed weapons capable of destroying their entire world. Dr. Vex Hera stared at the images. They nearly destroyed themselves? Multiple times. But they survived every disaster and became stronger. Asteroid impacts, climate change, resource wars, plague outbreaks. Nothing stopped them from expanding into space. Commander Kelvas changed the display again. This is their current military structure. The numbers made Admiral Thexmore step backward. This cannot be accurate. I confirmed it through multiple sources. The humans maintain over 10,000 warships. Their smallest vessels are the size of Imperial heavy cruisers. Their largest ships are 40 kilometers long and carry enough firepower to level continents. And the ship that defeated War Prince Zephon? According to human classification, the Indomitable is a light exploration vessel. It's one of their smaller ships, designed for long-range scouting and first contact situations. Silence filled the laboratory. The ship that had embarrassed the Imperial Navy was considered small by human standards. Dr. Vex Hera found her voice first. What about their military philosophy? Commander Kelvas consulted his data tablet. Human military doctrine is based on what they call overwhelming response. They don't fight to win quickly. They fight to ensure their enemies can never threaten them again. Meaning, they are willing to accept massive casualties to achieve complete victory. Human commanders routinely sacrifice entire fleets if it gains strategic advantage. They view individual ships and even whole armies as expendable resources. Admiral Thexmore felt cold fear spreading through his body. You're describing a species of fanatics. Worse, they're describing a species that has turned survival into a military art form. Every challenge they faced made them more dangerous. They don't just adapt to threats, they eliminate threats permanently. The holographic display showed human defensive installations around their territory. Massive fortresses, automated weapon platforms, and sensor networks that could detect ships across multiple star systems. Admiral, Commander Kelvis continued, there's something else. The humans have been monitoring Imperial communications for over 50 years. They know our ship designs, our tactics, our military structure. The Indomitable didn't stumble into our territory by accident. You think this is a planned invasion? I think this is reconnaissance. They're testing our responses, studying our capabilities, and mapping our defenses. And they're doing it with a single ship to show us they don't consider us a serious threat. Doctor. Vexhara looked at the battle recording again. Now she understood why the human ship had moved so calmly through Imperial space. It wasn't courage or ignorance, it was confidence based on overwhelming superiority. Admiral, she said quietly, I recommend we inform Emperor Valthek immediately. We are not dealing with primitives. We are facing an apex predator species that has been preparing for this encounter much longer than we have. The neutral space station Haven's Rest had never hosted such an important meeting. Built at the border between Imperial space and unclaimed territory, it served as a trading post for various species. Today, it would witness the first official diplomatic contact between the Zarathi Empire and humanity. Captain Sarah Chen walked through the station's corridors flanked by 2 human Marines. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decoration. Her calm expression showed no sign of nervousness or concern. Behind her, the massive bulk of the Indomitable was visible through the station's viewing ports. Emperor Valthek had sent his best diplomats, led by Foreign Minister Kalhen. The minister was known throughout the galaxy for his skill in negotiations. He had personally arranged treaties with dozens of species, always securing favorable terms for the Empire. The meeting room was designed to accommodate different species. The Imperial delegation sat on one side of a curved table, their crystalline forms reflecting the soft lighting. Captain Chen sat alone on the opposite side, her hands folded calmly in front of her. Captain Chen, Minister Kalhen began, we welcome you to this diplomatic discussion. However, your entry into Imperial space has created tensions. Minister, I appreciate your willingness to meet. I hope we can resolve any misunderstandings peacefully. Indeed. Perhaps we should start with your ship's capabilities. Our military encounters with your vessel raised several questions. Captain Chen smiled slightly. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the Indomitable. How were you able to penetrate our barrier shields? Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and high-velocity particles. We simply used a different approach. Our ship pushed through at low speed using brute force propulsion. Sometimes the simplest solution works best. Minister Kalhen made notes on his datapad. And your weapon's effectiveness against our defenses? Mass drivers firing dense projectiles. Your quantum shields work perfectly against energy weapons, but they can't stop solid matter traveling at high velocity. Again, we used a different approach than what your technology was designed to counter. The Imperial delegation exchanged glances. The human captain spoke as if these solutions were obvious. Captain, your ship's construction puzzles our scientists. How does primitive metal armor withstand plasma fire that should vaporize any known material? Layered armor with heat, distribution channels. We don't try to deflect energy. We absorb it and spread it across the entire hull structure. The outer layers vaporize, but the inner layers remain intact. Simple physics, really. Admiral Kethvar, who had joined the diplomatic mission, leaned forward. Captain, with respect, your ship appears to use technology thousands of years old. By galactic standards, how do you compete with advanced civilizations? Captain Chen's expression became more serious. Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding about the Indomitable. What kind of misunderstanding? You keep referring to her as a warship. The Indomitable is an exploration vessel, designed for long-range scouting and first contact missions. The Imperial delegation stared at her in silence. Minister Kalhen found his voice first. Exploration vessel? Yes, she's lightly armed and carries minimal crew. Her primary mission is to establish peaceful contact with new species and assess potential diplomatic relations. Lightly armed? Admiral Kethvar's voice cracked slightly. Compared to our actual warships, yes. The Indomitable carries 12 mass drivers and basic defensive systems. A true human battleship carries over 200 weapons and much heavier armor. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Captain, Minister Culhane said carefully, what would constitute a human warship? Our newest Dreadnought-class vessels are 40 kilometers long and carry enough firepower to crack continents. They're designed to engage entire enemy fleets simultaneously. The Indomitable would serve as a scout ship for such vessels. Admiral Kethvar felt his hands shaking. How many such ships do humans possess? Our current battle fleet includes 57 dreadnoughts, 300 heavy cruisers, and over 8,000 escort vessels. We also maintain extensive orbital defense platforms around our core worlds. And your total military strength? Captain Chen consulted a datapad. Active military personnel number approximately 200 million across all branches. Reserve forces include another 800 million trained soldiers who can be mobilized within 30 days. The Imperial delegation sat in stunned silence. The numbers Captain Chen quoted casually exceeded the Empire's entire military by several orders of magnitude. Captain, Minister Culhane asked weakly, what are your intentions regarding the Empire? Minister, humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. We have no desire to conquer or dominate other civilizations. However, we will not tolerate threats to human security. Define threats. Any attempt to invade human space, attack human colonies, or harm human citizens. We believe in proportional response to such actions. Proportional response? Captain Chen's expression hardened. If you attack one of our ships, we destroy your fleet. If you attack one of our colonies, we destroy your worlds. If you threaten our species, we eliminate yours completely. We learned long ago that half measures only encourage future aggression. Admiral Kethvar remembered the ease with which the Indomitable had damaged War Prince Zephon's fleet. If that was just a lightly armed scout ship. Captain, why did you enter Imperial space? We're conducting a standard diplomatic mission. Humanity prefers to establish formal relations with galactic powers rather than leaving potential conflicts unresolved. And if we had refused this meeting? Then we would have continued our mission and established a monitoring station in this region to observe Imperial activities. We don't require permission to operate in unclaimed space. Minister Culhane realized the implications. The humans weren't asking for permission to be here. They were informing the Empire of their presence and offering to discuss terms. What do you want from the Empire? He asked. Recognition of human territorial boundaries, establishment of trade protocols, and agreement on rules of engagement should our ships encounter each other in disputed space. Standard diplomatic framework. And if we refuse? Captain Chen shrugged. Then we proceed without Imperial cooperation. Humans are quite capable of protecting their interests independently. The cold certainty in her voice made it clear this was not a negotiation. This was humanity offering the Empire a chance to establish civilized relations with a superior military power. Minister Culhane looked at his fellow diplomats, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. The Empire had spent centuries believing they were the dominant force in the galaxy. In one afternoon, that illusion had been completely shattered. Captain Chen, he said finally, I believe Emperor Valthek will be very interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations with humanity. Excellent, Minister. I look forward to productive discussions. Emperor Valthek paced across the crystal floor of his throne room, his heavy footsteps echoing through the vast chamber. The reports from the diplomatic meeting had shattered every assumption the Empire held about their place in the galaxy. Foreign. Minister Culhane stood quietly nearby, waiting for his Emperor's response. Tell me again, Valthek said, his voice dangerous and low, what the human captain said about their military strength. 57 Dreadnought-class vessels, each 40 kilometers long. Over 8,000 escort ships, 200 million active military personnel. Culhane's voice remained steady despite his fear. And the ship that humiliated War Prince Zephon? A lightly armed exploration vessel, Your Majesty. According to Captain Chen, it would serve as a scout ship for their actual warships. Emperor, Valtek stopped pacing and stared out the massive windows overlooking his capital city. Millions of Zarathi citizens lived below, confident in the Empire's protection. They had no idea their entire civilization had just discovered it was a minor power in galactic terms. What are our options, Minister? I see 3 possibilities, Your Majesty. We can attempt to destroy humanity before they become a greater threat. We can try to conquer them and add their territory to the Empire. Or we can establish peaceful relations and treat them as equals. The Empire has never recognized equals. No, Your Majesty. We have not. Valthek turned to face his council, which had gathered to discuss the human crisis. Military commanders, scientists, and advisors filled the chamber. All looked to him for guidance in this unprecedented situation. General Vextar, what is your assessment of our military chances against humanity? The Empire's supreme military commander stepped forward. His scarred face showed the strain of recent calculations. Your Majesty, based on the intelligence we've gathered, a direct military confrontation would be catastrophic for the Empire. Explain. The humans possess overwhelming numerical superiority. Our entire battle fleet consists of 800 capital ships. They have over 8,000. Our ships are individually more elegant and sophisticated, but their vessels are designed purely for destruction. Could we win through superior tactics? General Vextar shook his head. Your Majesty, human military doctrine is based on centuries of constant warfare. They've fought more battles in the last 100 years than we have in our entire history. Their tactical experience far exceeds ours. What about our technological advantages? Minimal, Your Majesty. Their technology appears primitive, but it's specifically designed to counter advanced weapons and defenses. They've clearly studied our capabilities and developed appropriate countermeasures. Emperor Valtek felt his anger rising. The Empire had ruled this region of space for over 1,000 years. Now these upstart humans threatened everything they had built. What about a preemptive strike, destroy them before they can respond? Impossible, Your Majesty. Human space is heavily defended with automated systems. Their defensive networks could detect our fleets long before we reach their core worlds. And according to their doctrine, any attack on human territory would result in total retaliation. Total retaliation? Complete extinction of the attacking species, Your Majesty. They don't fight limited wars. The throne room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire faced an enemy that could not be defeated through military force, and would not hesitate to commit genocide if threatened. Science advisor Kelran stepped forward nervously. Your Majesty, there may be another consideration. Speak. The humans have been monitoring our communications for decades. They know our ship designs, our tactics, our resource locations. They've been preparing for this contact much longer than we realized. You think this is planned? Your Majesty, I believe the humans have been studying the Empire for years, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The timing of their diplomatic mission suggests careful preparation. Emperor Valthek returned to his throne and sat heavily. The crystal chair had been carved from a single massive gem, representing the Empire's eternal strength. Now it felt cold and brittle beneath him. Minister Culhen, what did Captain Chen say about human intentions? She claimed they seek peaceful coexistence, Your Majesty. However, she made it clear they will tolerate no threats to human security. And their definition of threats? Any attack on human ships, colonies, or citizens. Their response doctrine calls for escalating retaliation until the threat is permanently eliminated. Valtek studied the faces of his advisors. These were the finest minds in the Empire, yet they all reached the same conclusion. The humans were too powerful to fight, and too dangerous to ignore. There is one more factor to consider, Admiral Kethvar said quietly. Yes, the human ship Indomitable has continued its journey through our territory. It's currently approaching the Kethmore system, one of our major industrial centers. And? Your Majesty, the ship is conducting detailed sensor sweeps of our facilities. They're mapping our defensive positions, industrial capacity, and fleet deployments. Captain Chen claimed this was a diplomatic mission, but they're gathering military intelligence. Are they violating any agreements? No, Your Majesty. They're staying in neutral space corridors and making no hostile moves. But they're clearly evaluating our capabilities. Emperor Valthek realized the true nature of the human visit. This wasn't first contact. This was an assessment. The humans were determining whether the Empire posed any threat to their expansion plans. How long before they complete their survey? At their current pace, approximately 6 more days, Your Majesty. And then? Unknown. But based on their pattern, I believe they intend to establish a permanent monitoring station somewhere in this region. The Emperor understood. The humans weren't asking permission to operate near Imperial space. They were informing the Empire of their intentions and offering to discuss terms. The choice was simple: cooperation or irrelevance. Minister Kalhen, prepare a formal treaty proposal. We will establish diplomatic relations with humanity. What terms should I offer, Your Majesty? Whatever terms they want. Mutual recognition of territory, trade agreements, non-aggression pacts. Make it clear the Empire desires peaceful relations. And if they refuse? Emperor Valthek looked out at his city again. The proud towers and crystal spires represented 1,000 years of Imperial achievement, but they also represented millions of lives depending on his decisions. Then we hope they find us useful enough to leave alone. The council dispersed to begin implementing the new reality. The Zarathi Empire, masters of space for a millennium, would learn to coexist with a superior power. It was either adaptation or extinction. As his advisors filed out of the throne room, Emperor Valthek remained seated on his crystal throne. Outside, the human ship Indomitable continued its methodical survey of Imperial space, gathering information with the calm confidence of absolute superiority. For the first time in his reign, Valthek understood what it meant to be truly powerless. 3 months after first contact, the galaxy had changed forever. The Indomitable now sat in permanent orbit around Haven's Rest Station, which had been expanded to serve as the first human Empire diplomatic facility. What had begun as a simple trading post now bustled with activity from dozens of species eager to establish relations with the new galactic power. Captain Sarah Chen stood in her new office, watching construction crews work on the human embassy section. The building would serve multiple purposes: diplomatic headquarters, intelligence gathering center, and, if necessary, a forward command post for human military operations. A soft chime announced a visitor. Foreign Minister Kalhen entered, carrying data tablets and wearing the tired expression of someone who had spent months negotiating with a superior power. Captain Chen, I have the final treaty documents for your review. Thank you, Minister. Please sit down. Kalhen settled into the human-designed chair, still uncomfortable with furniture built for a different species. The past 3 months had been full of such small reminders that the galaxy no longer revolved around Imperial preferences. The Emperor has approved all human territorial claims, Kalhen reported. We recognize human sovereignty over 237 star systems, with full rights to expansion into unclaimed space. And trade agreements? Standard diplomatic protocols. Human ships will have access to Imperial commercial centers. Imperial vessels may request passage through human space with advance notice. Captain Chen reviewed the documents on her tablet. Everything appeared to be in order. The Empire had agreed to every human demand without significant negotiation. What about military protocols? Imperial ships will maintain a minimum distance of 1 light-year from human territory unless specifically invited. Any Imperial vessel entering human space without permission will be considered hostile. And human ships in Imperial space? Kalhen hesitated. Human vessels are granted free passage through Imperial territory for diplomatic and commercial purposes. Military ships may transit with advance notification. The asymmetry was obvious. Imperial ships needed permission to enter human space, while human ships could move freely through the Empire. It was a clear indication of which species held more power. Minister, how has the Empire adjusted to these new arrangements? With difficulty, Captain. Our citizens are confused by the sudden change in our galactic status. For 1,000 years, we were the dominant force in this region. Now we find ourselves as a junior partner to humanity. Captain Chen nodded sympathetically. Change is always difficult, but I believe both our species will benefit from peaceful cooperation. Perhaps. Though I must ask, why did humanity reveal itself now? You could have remained hidden in your territory for decades longer. Because expansion was inevitable, Minister. Human population growth and resource needs require continued colonization. We preferred to establish clear boundaries and rules before conflicts arose. And if we had refused to negotiate, then we would have proceeded with expansion anyway. The Empire would have been forced to either accept human presence or attempt to stop it militarily. Calhoun shuddered at the thought. Intelligence reports continued to arrive about human military capabilities. Each new piece of information made their decision to negotiate seem wiser. Captain, there's something else. Other species have requested meetings with human representatives. Oh? The Kelrani Trade Confederation wants to establish commercial agreements. The Vorthak Republic is interested in a non-aggression pact. Even the reclusive Nethys have sent diplomatic inquiries. Captain Chen smiled. Word travels fast in the galaxy. Indeed. Your demonstration against War Prince Zephon's fleet has become legendary. Every species with interstellar capability now knows about human military effectiveness. The captain moved to her window, looking down at the bustling station below. Representatives from a dozen species moved through the corridors, all seeking some form of relationship with humanity. Minister, what does Emperor Valtek think of these developments? He's adapting. The Emperor realizes that resistance would be futile and potentially suicidal. He's chosen to position the Empire as humanity's primary regional partner. A wise decision. Perhaps, though many in the Imperial military struggle with our new status. General Vextar has requested early retirement. War Prince Zephon has not left his quarters since the battle. Captain Chen turned back to face the minister. Change is difficult for proud warriors, but pride must sometimes yield to reality. Indeed. Captain, may I ask about human plans for this region? Standard procedure. We'll establish monitoring stations, trade routes, and diplomatic contacts. Human colonies will expand into suitable systems. Everything will proceed peacefully as long as other species don't interfere. And if they do interfere, then they'll discover why interference is unwise. The casual certainty in her voice reminded Calhoun why the Empire had chosen cooperation over confrontation. A communication alert sounded from Captain Chen's desk. She answered the call, listening to a brief report before terminating the connection. Minister, I have news that might interest you. The Human Battle Group Task Force. Prometheus will arrive in this system next week. Calhoun felt his blood freeze. Battle Group? Routine patrol and resupply mission. Nothing to concern the Empire. How many ships? Just a standard formation. 1 dreadnought, 4 heavy cruisers, and 12 escort vessels. Calhoun did quick calculations. A single human dreadnought carried more firepower than the Empire's entire border fleet. The escort vessels alone outnumbered Imperial ships in the region. They're coming here for resupply? The Indomitable needs maintenance after 3 months of constant operation. Task Force Prometheus will provide support while conducting their own diplomatic missions. Diplomatic missions? Meeting with various species who have requested formal contact with human military command. Apparently, our reputation has generated significant interest. Calhoun realized the implications. Within a week, human warships would be stationed throughout the region, conducting diplomatic missions with every major power. The galaxy's power structure was being permanently altered. Captain, will these ships be staying long? As long as necessary to complete their missions, probably several months. Several months of human dreadnoughts patrolling the region. No species would dare challenge human interests with such overwhelming force present. I should inform the Emperor immediately. Of course, please assure him that Task Force Prometheus comes in peace. They're simply here to protect human interests and support regional stability. As Calhoun prepared to leave, Captain Chen called out to him. Minister, one more thing. The human government has decided to name our new embassy complex. We're calling it the Peace Station. Peace Station? Yes. We believe it represents humanity's commitment to peaceful coexistence with our galactic neighbors. Calhoun nodded and left the office. carrying news that would send shockwaves through the Imperial government. As he walked through the station corridors, he passed construction crews building the human embassy complex. The structure was massive, clearly designed to accommodate large numbers of personnel and equipment. Looking through the viewports, he could see the Indomitable hanging in space like a gray metal mountain. Soon it would be joined by even larger human warships, permanently altering the balance of power in the region. The Empire had survived its first encounter with humanity. But Calhoun suspected their real challenges were just beginning. The humans had not conquered the Empire through force. Instead, they had simply made their superiority so obvious that resistance became impossible. As he boarded his shuttle back to Imperial space, Calhoun reflected on the new galactic order. Humanity had not destroyed the Empire's independence. They had simply made it irrelevant. And perhaps, he thought grimly, that was an even more effective form of conquest.